A massive shadow looms over the Cretaceous floodplains as a multi-ton predator strikes. The Tyrannosaurus Rex lunges with enough force to shatter bone, but instead of soft flesh, it meets a surface as hard as granite. A deafening crack echoes through the valley, not from a bite, but from a swinging mass of bone smashing into the predator's ankle. The king of dinosaurs recoils in agony, crippled by a single blow from a creature that refused to be prey. This is the reality of the ultimate defensive machine. The Late Cretaceous period was an era of extreme biological engineering. While some dinosaurs grew to gargantuan sizes to avoid being eaten, and others developed lightning-fast reflexes, one lineage chose a different path of evolution. The Ankylosaurus magniventris did not run and it did not hide. It became a living fortress. To understand the magnitude of this animal's defensive capabilities, one must look past the scales and into the very architecture of its body. The primary defense of the Ankylosaurus was its integumentary armor, known as osteoderms. These were not mere scales, but bony plates embedded directly into the skin, similar to the structure of modern crocodiles, but taken to a radical extreme. These plates were covered in a thick layer of keratin, the same material found in rhino horns and human fingernails. This composite structure functioned like modern chobham armor used on tanks. The hard outer layer would deflect initial impacts, while the internal bone structure absorbed the kinetic energy. This evolutionary design ensured that even the bone-crushing teeth of a tyrannosaur would struggle to find the weak point. However, the armor was only half of the story. The true genius of the Ankylosaurus lay in its active defense system, located at the very end of its body. The tail club of the Ankylosaurus is one of the most specialized weapons ever produced by evolution. Unlike the flexible tails of most dinosaurs, the rear half of the Ankylosaurus's tail was reinforced by ossified tendons that turned it into a stiff handle. This handle supported two large lateral masses of bone that formed the club. Biomechanical studies suggest that a full-grown Ankylosaurus could swing this club with enough velocity to generate thousands of newtons of force. This was not just a defensive swat, it was a precision instrument of destruction. The club was positioned at the perfect height to strike the shins and ankles of large theropods. In the wild, a broken leg was a death sentence for a predator. By targeting the mobility of its enemies, the Ankylosaurus created a psychological barrier. Any predator brave enough to attack knew that one mistake would mean they would never walk again. This development was part of what scientists call an evolutionary arms race. As predators like the Tyrannosaurids evolved more powerful jaws and larger teeth, the herbivores had to innovate or face extinction. The Ankylosaurus represents the pinnacle of the defensive side of this race. Every inch of its upper body was protected. Even its eyelids were reinforced with bony shutters. It was an animal that had successfully opted out of the food chain by becoming too expensive to hunt. The energy required to maintain such heavy armor was immense. The Ankylosaurus had a massive rib cage to house a complex digestive system, capable of fermenting tough, low-lying vegetation. This fuel was necessary to power the massive muscles required to move its heavy frame and swing its lethal tail. It was a masterpiece of biological balance. When observing the fossil record, the effectiveness of this design becomes clear. The Ankylosaurids were one of the most successful groups of dinosaurs, surviving right up until the mass extinction event. They occupied a niche that required no aggression, yet commanded total respect. They were the silent guardians of their ecosystem, proving that in the theater of evolution, sometimes the best way to win a fight is to make sure your opponent hurts themselves just by trying to strike you. The legacy of the Ankylosaurus continues to fascinate modern engineers and material scientists. The way it fused flexibility with rigid protection offers insights into how we might design better protective gear. But beyond the science, there remains the awe of a creature that stood its ground against the most terrifying predators to ever walk the earth, and won through the sheer power of persistence and bone. The sun sets over the ancient horizon, casting long shadows across the armored back of a resting giant. It breathes slowly, undisturbed by the distant roars of carnivores. It is a testament to the fact that evolution does not always favor the fastest or the fiercest. Sometimes it favors the one who can take the hardest hit and stand back up. The Ankylosaurus remains the ultimate symbol of resilience in the deep history of life on Earth.